Here's Jigsaw failing after a year, half a year to a year. Nothing is sticking.
I was doing well after these 5 years. I actually reached a turnover of 2 million.
One day I just want to be part of a greater team. Well, then you're an acqui-hire. You're not a business for sale. You're watching the Misfit Founders podcast, a raw conversation about the challenges of building businesses, overcoming hardships, and also feeling out of place. I'm Biro, an exited founder, investor, and advisor who failed quite a few businesses in the past. My mission with Misfit Founders to help at least one founder every single month by unveiling the authentic stories of other founders and providing guidance and support. So I hope you enjoy the podcast today and get useful insights out of it. And if you do join the conversation on our WhatsApp community, where we discuss topics like this one, in this podcast, in group, as well as private sessions. Link in the video description. Also, please subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you get notified when we publish new videos.
First of all, thank you for inviting. I'm Alex, I'm CEO of Life in Code. Basically what we do is we help teams buy back time by providing them with the tools and know-how to work more efficiently. About myself, I'm a technical guy. I started my career as a Java developer. Now,
Oh, really?
And
When was this?
this was in Bucharest.
Mm-hmm.
For a corporation, well, I guess we can say I worked at IBM
Mm-hmm.
at the time, and basically I started my career with an internship on Java development. And coincidence is that they put me on a project where we were developing in-house add-ons for Jira using Java. So that's how I learned Jira.
And how was that transition from saying being a full hardcore engineer into basically deploying and setting up and administering Jira?
So, well, as you probably know, if you develop add-ons for a tool, obviously you learn the tool, right?
Yeah.
So then I learned the tool, and they said, okay, now you're going to do Jira admin as well. And then they said, well, you know Jira, now you're going to do Confluence admin as well. So I was kind of forced in a way to transition towards this. I did not initially realize that I prefer this. I have to confess that I actually left IBM for a few months and went to do Java development some other place.
What on earth is this bullshit Jira stuff?
Yeah, exactly. But I still had this on my LinkedIn. So then another company contacted me and said, look, we are looking for an Atlassian admin if you want to join. So yeah, they convinced me to get back into this, and I learned what it really means, and I grown to like it. Yeah,
you have to spend a tiny bit of time in an ecosystem to really understand and figure out if it's, because I've seen people that are like, well, I've worked with Jira for 2 weeks and I hate everything about Atlassian. I'm like, whoa, hold on, slow down. It's not that bad. And then with the transition from being working as an administrator and setting up for this company, having a job there, and so on, how did you transition to having your own company? What was the catalyst for that?
So long story short, I'm a workaholic, and I had basically my full-time job as a consultant. To be specific, as a freelancer. So I already started the company actually, but I was just by myself, just to work as a freelancer. And since time permitted and I'm a workaholic, I started taking projects on freelancer.com at the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And do more. And this went on for a few years and realized there are more and more projects. Basically what I did initially, I subcontracted some of my friends or colleagues to take those projects.
As you usually do.
And now when I look back,
you're a freelancer.
yeah. But now when I look back, that's actually how the company started.
Okay.
Like really, because before that I was a solopreneur. Basically, I was just by myself. But the moment I subcontracted the first project, that's when really we started scaling up.
Okay. And that was basically that's when you decided,
Mm.
okay, I want to build, or what I'm doing here, I'm building a business. It's not a freelancing job anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And so on. And I'm curious, what was specifically that click?
Mm.
Was it the influx of job requests that you had?
Yeah, I saw there are a lot of projects.
Okay. And how's the competition?
There's a lot of
Because
potential.
now, like for example, if you go on Upwork or Freelancer, does freelancer.com still exist?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I don't have a profile
I think
anymore. I do know that Upwork still exists because we
Yeah, I
use
know.
it to
I think there was a merger. I don't know,
Yeah.
freelance. I don't want to talk rubbish, but
Yeah.
anyways, if you go on Upwork now
Mm.
and you type Jira admin or anything like that, there is a wealth of
Yeah.
freelancers. Was it the same thing back then? And when was this? What year
There,
was this?
there were quite a few. So this was so when I was on freelancer.com, I believe this was in around 8 years ago, give or take.
Okay.
Yeah. There were quite a few. I think I had the advantage of a pretty good profile due to my daily work.
Right.
Because I was working with interesting companies, and yeah, that was let's
Okay.
say my competitive advantage. Also, that I was a technical guy in the Atlassian ecosystem, so I was doing a lot of scripting. Also, I could take on all these script runner requests, which are
Right,
quite
yeah.
common,
Yeah.
because that's something a company doesn't really have the expertise to do in-house. Yeah, so I was able to take on all this.
So I suppose that's one of the, upper edge, upper benefit of being an administrator, Jira administrator, Confluence administrator, Atlassian in general, admin, is having the ability to code and being technical.
Yeah, I think that's still an advantage. Although,
It's still, even for cloud, if you think of,
yeah, they do move. Like if we look at some of the more complex apps that required you previously to be very technical, I think they move now in a more drag and drop, nice UI direction. So maybe that's less relevant today, but for sure it still helps.
so over the years, so you said you started Life in Codes officially when?
Yeah, in 2013, basically, Life in Code
2013.
started, but I was just by myself. We were not an Atlassian partner at the time.
So when did you became, was there more than you, and you got into Atlassian partnerships and so on? What year was this?
Around 5 years later.
5 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. So how's
It's around 2018.
business progressed since then?
It's an interesting thing because I actually want to talk about scale up and when not to scale up, or when to decide to scale up. Because I was doing well after these 5 years as a solopreneur. I actually reached a turnover of 2 million just by myself.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And today we are 8 people, but we're not much higher than that. Right?
Okay.
So that brings an interesting topic on when should you decide to actually scale up and what is the point of it.
I think it's,
and I guess we're going to talk about that later.
yeah. We can get into it. Though there's no very specific agenda, but that's a really interesting topic, and it's a really interesting question. Do I want to make 2 million annual revenue on my own, or do I want to make 2 million annual recurring revenue with 8 people on board? And for me, I think to answer that question, one needs to look at what they want to achieve and where they're heading and so on. Because I know plenty of people that are super happy to be solopreneurs and just make revenue, take dividends, and just keep on going with the business and, be a lucrative business, lifestyle business, as they call it. And that's that. Perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. It's normal nowadays. And if you look at, the Twitter communities and micro acquire and so on, there's so many people that just build something, get it to 10, 20 monthly recurring revenue, 20K, and decide to sell it to the next person that actually wants to build a lucrative business out of it and so on. So there is a variety of models, but solopreneur is to me is a lifestyle type of business, right? You choose to do this thing, is lucrative, pays for your lifestyle, and that's it. Where the solopreneur kind of slightly falls apart to me is if your aspiration and your goals are to eventually get acquired, get into a bigger team and so on, it kind of raises eyebrows if, let's say, for a year or two, you've been growing a business on your own, got it to a hefty amount of money, but say, and you know that you're going to get acquired, that's your plan, but you refuse to hire and scale while you were on your own because of whatever reasons. People have reasons, I know people that don't want to scale because they don't want the headaches of working with other people and culture and culture misfit and hiring processes and so on. It's very heavy. But the point is, if you go in front of an investor or a buyer company, and you mentioned that you made 2 million, brilliant, you're a very smart person. But there are red flags if you're not willing or able to grow beyond yourself. If you're a one-man band, do you have per se a business, or are you, depending on what, like if you have a product, you have a great product, you built a product and you're selling it, but you're doing everything, you don't have scaled infrastructures, you haven't proven that you can expand your business with your product, right? So I think that's where that falls apart. But again, like each with its own. Like if you, for example, if you have a consultancy business and you make a pretty significant amount of money and you decide, I'm just going to stick with this. And then one day I just want to be part of a greater team. Well, then you're an acqui-hire. You're not a business for sale. You're an acqui-hire. And if you build a product on your own and you want to one day sell it, well, then you're selling a product. You're not selling a business. I think that's, for me, that's where things lie.
Some very interesting points. I would like to add to that also the scalability part. Sustainability part, because I think it's not sustainable to be just by yourself forever. Like, okay, I was young and had a lot of energy, but for how long could I work, 12, 16 hours, which was the norm for me a day.
And you see, that's once you get to a certain level, I was the same, like my early 20s, why are all of these companies with so many employees? What are all of those employees doing? Look at me. I can do X, Y, Z in parallel and be versatile and so on. And that was true. And I recommend every single entrepreneur that starts now, and it's in early days and quite young and ambitious and energetic, to do that. Start and, figure out what you're good at. Try to be good at as many things as possible, and the stuff that you're not good at, maybe get a co-founder or something like that. So that's acceptable. But once you go to, build a business, exit it, build it just with Nikki and I, and the early days, and you're like rolling our sleeves up and just do everything and learn about everything, is very healthy, right? So you want to do because you have the energy and the horsepower, right, to do. But it's also very healthy if you want to grow into very mature entrepreneur and professional in your life. It's healthy to dab in a lot of topics. But at one point, do you continue to do that with every single business? Say you're a serial entrepreneur and you want to build a business, you sold it, you build another one, you sold it. Do you continue to build stuff from scratch, starting alone? Or the next time, second time, third time, you learn what you need as essentials and you hire people
Yeah.
in the early days. And I think that's one interesting question, because I know people, I know people that, can I call myself a serial entrepreneur? No. I think serial entrepreneur means, at least in my head, I might have the wrong definition for some people. Serial entrepreneur means I've built and exited multiple companies, right? I built and failed a lot of companies and exited successfully one, right?
Yeah.
So I can't really call myself a serial entrepreneur. But when you're a serial entrepreneur, there are people that just like to start things on their own and just craft and think about it and put stuff together and just hack at it and put themselves in uncomfortable situations by learning about new stuff. And that's perfectly fine. But I think a lot of us, and I'm one of those people, maybe you're one of those people as well, I had enough of hacking stuff on my own. I feel like when I'm thinking of business now, I'm thinking, right, so what kind of skill set would I need in order to achieve this?
And I want to answer that myself. For me, it is very clear that the next business I start, it will not be just by myself.
Yeah.
Now I know what I am good at, but I know that I also need help on.
Would it be? I know that
several
you
things.
have a healthy business currently and so on, and we'll talk about your plans with that. But would it be still in services, or are you thinking of dabbling with product?
No, I want to go more towards product.
Ooh,
as
and
a
what
next
would you
field.
build?
Well, that I'm saving that for later.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually one of my questions to you for today. How did you decide what you built? So how did you do like product market fit?
Well, I'm going to answer this in multiple folds. I've failed so many businesses before because I never actually done product market fit. I've started Jigsaw with Nikki without us doing product market fit.
Okay.
We build, and this is the story of so many founders in the Atlassian ecosystem, developers, technical people, consultants in that work for, like, that integrate Atlassian and know everything about it. We built our first product just because I had an itch and a need, right? I had the itch to continue to do stuff to build my own product outside the 9 to 5 that I had. And I had a need for a product for our team in the 9 to 5, right? So I had an itch and a need. So I had to scratch my itch and satisfy my need, right? And I was working with Nikki. We got it started. Initially, it was like, oh, we need a release orchestration tool. We can't find anything, and let's build one. Let's think of how we would envision it and sketch it and build it. That was our product market fit, is not having the tool that we needed.
Yeah.
And it's safe to say it didn't work. Like Swanley in the first year or so was not getting any traction. So it did, in the early days, it did feel to me like another failed business. The way I felt, it was like, oh, deja vu, oh, for fuck's sake, not like and this is why I'm calling this podcast Misfit Founders, because the amount of times that I felt out of place and I felt like I was an imposter, I shouldn't be a founder, because look, here's Jigsaw failing after a year, half a year to a year, nothing is sticking, deja vu on all of my failed businesses. And I think it took Nikki, right? I've been saying that Nikki has been quite a bit my savior in a sense. And if I didn't have her, it would have probably been a different story. I was the technical part in our startup in Jigsaw, and she was the product person. She would get into how we build it, the functionality and so on. So she started researching and getting into learning about product discovery and research and all of these things. So she started looking into how to make our product stick. And we basically figure out a couple of features that the Jira users were asking for related to release management. And we built them that weren't existent in. And we built them, we validated them, and then launched it. So Jex Swanley, our first product, in its initial state was a dump, right? It was, I don't even know how we got our first. We got our first payment after 4 months after launching. It was a $60 per month license, and I was sat there scratching my head, thinking, "How is this person paying for my tool?" Like I feel like we failed with this product. So then Nikki done research, and we looked at features, and we implemented a couple of features. We also had a couple of people that left comments on, we would like this change and so on. And then it kind of became a snowball effect because one, those features kept on bringing us users. They kept on asking for new functionality, extendability. We started clustering ideas. We started looking at where do we want to head with this product? Like, what's the long-term vision? This was after Nikki doing quite a lot of research on release management, roadmaps, product planning, project planning, and so on. So we're getting quite deep into this topic. We were looking at solutions. We were looking at what people were asking for in communities. And we started forming a vision for the product. And then as customers were asking for features, we would cluster those into themes and see if these ideas contribute to the bigger picture, in a sense. So that was how we handled Swanley initially, right? Our second app, like the Foxley one, the one that's currently quite successful, it was actually a completely different story. We've done a lot of market research upfront to figure out whether that seed of an idea that we had, whether we should build it or not. And as a testimony, right, Foxley skyrocketed very early on when we launched it on the marketplace. But we've done a lot of prep, a lot of education materials up front before even launching the product. And again, product market fit, we went out, done research, volumes, needs, what people were using outside the ecosystem, how they were using it, what was in the ecosystem, how it was built, what level of leverage of pool did those solutions had, and so on, and also where the market was heading trend-wise with this topic. And we were talking about prioritization, and actually prioritization was quite a growing trend at that point. There were quite a few standalone apps around prioritization that were getting launched and getting quite a bit of traction and press releases and so on. So we've scoured and done a lot of research on how much this topic has been growing, and also the needs of people around this topic. And we even had calls with some of our existing customers from Swanley that were more closer advocates of Swanley to understand how their departments do prioritization and what they use. And we got to see templates in spreadsheets and so on. So there was, again, night and day. One was like, this is a good idea, let's just catch something and build it, and then kind of rapidly figured out a way to make it successful. The other one was really cerebral on how we approach and how we build it.
I see. I think in my case, what we're going to build next, to answer your previous question, first we're going to start with what we have, because we do have a small product. Since this was never the focus, I think we have to look into if it makes sense to put that on cloud. It's only on on-prem, on data center at the moment. And next, this actually small product that we have, the idea came from a customer. Now, being in the services business for so long and working with companies anywhere between 10 to 5,000 to 30,000 employees, there are a lot of ideas coming in.
Oh yeah.
They bring a lot of requests that we have to tell them, okay, that's not possible, or that would require I don't know how many days of scripting or custom development and so on, and they decide it's not possible or not worth it, let's say. So that's how Issue Preview was built. Our only product at the moment. Issue Preview was actually an idea from one of the customers. They decided it's not worth paying for so many consulting days to put it in place.
Right.
Then I was like, okay, then we're gonna build that ourselves, and I'll give it to you for free for a year. That's it. Thanks for the idea, basically.
That's like,
and I have a lot of these ideas from customers coming.
I think you're in a really great position, to be honest. One that Nikki and I never been in. And this is one of our struggles, right? Because at one point we were thinking, should we start the bloody consultancy? Because that then we'll have the insider information of what the customer is challenged with and what kind of solutions they need. And I think you're in a really good position for that. Do you have any specific method currently how you're capturing these ideas and figuring out how you're going to build, like what can be the most successful of these product ideas, basically product market fit and prioritizing
I don't
that.
have a way at the moment to, and this would be something I would really want to figure out, because okay, one customer is giving you one idea, but then we have to decide, is that worthy implementing, or is nobody else will want it, you know?
Yeah.
So how to decide that? I would say it's also a matter of effort. If it's not too difficult to do it, you know, even if it's for one customer, I'll still do it, and then see if actually there is an interest to grow that, and if it gets some traction, like you said, with your first install. Okay, if it gets some traction, then we will add more features to it.
I mean, how we started Swanley in my mind shouldn't be an example. That was the wrong approach, right?
Yeah.
So if a customer pays you to build something and you agree with them, I'll give you a discount and I'll own the rights of this piece of code, then yes, you could start with that, build it, and then figure out later. But I do recommend that you do some market research to figure out whether that idea is a good idea. And I think if you haven't already, set up a backlog of all of these ideas, categorize them, create a classification buckets type of system, and then just put stuff in there, and from all of the customers, and periodically sit down with your team and look at those ideas and try to kind of like abstractively, I don't know if that's a word or not, probably not, try to figure out, can this A idea link with this B idea, because this A idea was provided by 5 customers, very similar concept and so on, and this B idea seems something that could throttle some of the positioning on the market and so on. So I don't know, do you do that?
Yeah, not yet. And actually I will start doing that. I started recently playing with Jira Product Discovery, so I was actually thinking, okay, what can I use this for today? And I think this would be a good way of starting.
Yeah, it is, because again, I think the differentiator between consultancy businesses, and I call it consultancy just for the sake of the audience, because some people might not know what an Atlassian solution partner is and so on. The differentiator between consultancy businesses that build successful products, and then eventually they realize, oh, we can't have a consultancy and the product business in the same thing, let's split. But you know, that's a trend that's been happening. But
it's something I consider doing as well.
Yeah, so because they're 2 very different businesses, and you know, I've heard stories in our ecosystem as well on how, you know, people are, marketers, for example, came and told me how bummed they are because the so the consultancy company that they work are not investing in the product that they need to make popular and so on. But I think being able to successfully launch a product means significant market research upfront. And I would go so far in saying that if someone comes and says, I'll pay you to build this product and you keep the rights to it, but I'll pay you less, right? It's a good deal for me as well. I get this implementation, but I also don't care if someone else uses it. I'll pay you less. Even in that scenario, basically analyzing how much energy do I need to put into building this solution, not just building it for this customer, but you have to deploy an entire spectrum of resources and energy in order to build a product that's not a internal product for one person, and actually make it be flexible enough to be used by other organizations as well. So that is a completely different beast than someone coming in and saying, I have ABC requirements and build it for me. That seems a lot more straightforward. Not always, but it seems a bit more straightforward. But then saying, I'll pay you less and you keep the rights for this product, you can resell it and so on. You have to think about, right, how much money am I not getting? I'm losing now from this situation, right? This company wants to pay me less. And then how much more energy do I need to invest in this product in order to make it be able to publish in the Atlassian marketplace or standalone product? And then with these two pieces of, investment topics, research, figure out need from other customers, sit down with other customers of yours and be like, well, okay, so if I give you a solution like this, no charge like for me to build it, I'll just charge you a monthly subscription. Would you pay for something like that? And have a conversation with
that's a great idea.
Yeah, with all of your closest customers, because you must have closer customers that are kind of like friends and so on that are close and would help you out. And even and going and positioning it as a, do you have this problem? Validation, yes or not. How do you solve this problem today? And then see whether that would be a fit. And then eventually, I could actually sell this to already 5, 10, 20, 50% of my customers. So it's worth my time. Yeah, sorry, I'm blabbering here. I'm talking too much, but
that's great advice. And we do have a lot of customers that we could validate our DS with. Yeah.
And I think that differentiated, because again, there's also consultancies that created products that was the brainchild of a customer, right? And the customer like, let's buddy up on this. Even worse, right? There's one thing to say, advisor or consultant, I have this idea and I need this product and I think you can benefit from building a product from it and give me a discount because I'm not going to own the rights. It's a worse setup for that customer to be, and I've seen this, for that customer to be, let's buddy up. I'll give you the idea. You build the product. I'll give you some money to be able for you to survive while you're building that product. And then we'll halvesies, right? We'll halvesies the revenue, or we'll do this revenue share type of agreement. And then you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And you build it and you realize, I need to invest so much more because no market fit. And then the relationships get sour with your customer because getting into that. Again, these are, nightmare scenarios that I've heard of. And usually the products that don't work come from situations like this where you don't do a lot of or enough product market fit. So you started the question around product market fit. I think that is no one should take my example because that's where I failed all of my businesses before. No product market fit. I would see something that's working and I would say, I can definitely build that. And I'll build it. I had no idea who my customers were. So it always failed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now we learn from that.
What's next? What are you doing next?
What's next? Well, you already touched the point that I want to split services and product. And that's for multiple reasons. It's also because I think that the team will eventually be different. It's also because now we are talking about the startup world, right? And exits and so on. And I think it's much easier to exit with a product business than with a consulting business, especially when those consulting services depend a lot on yourself. So in that sense, I could keep the services as a lifestyle business and see a potential exit for the product only. It's just an idea. Tell me if it's
that's a very valid and rational idea. I'm gonna put this other thought and question and see how you feel about this. And I'm not saying it's the right idea. Like what you just mentioned, how you're thinking of your future is great. Have you thought of, for example, selling the consultancy business for a multiplier or something like that? Getting an extra buck for it and building your product business with those resources. And again, these are two very separate approaches, right? So
yeah, of course. I did think about it. We actually had some conversations with some potential buyers. I think my services business is not really sellable at the moment because it was never built that way, and it just lacks. Let's say I need to do some cleanup in order for it to be sellable.
But is that doable? As in, would you be able to do
I think
cleanup?
the bigger question is if I want to do it. Is it worth doing it?
Yeah.
If it's just for the funds to invest in product, it's probably not necessary. I could look for potential investors in a new product business from the beginning and get basically a co-founder, and do it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if it requires some cleanup in a sense, your business, and I hear this so often, right? And I think Nikki and I were lucky because we took the decision that we're going to be part of a bigger team at a very early stage where the company and the business was in its infancy. So we didn't get to develop very significant structures internally to be like, but how are we going to sell this, right? Like it doesn't make sense, right? No one's going to want to buy this, right? So we were lucky in that sense because we didn't really, once we decided we want to sell, we want to join sell. And sell is a weird word because we got acquired.
It's not really
right?
sell, yeah.
We wanted to get acquired to be part of a bigger team and so on. And we started laying down the needs in order to make that happen and running our business for that purpose, right? I hear so many people that are looking at a variety of business setups, business mixes, but they want to eventually exit or get acquired. And I'm sat there thinking, don't do that. Like, for example, a revenue share, splitting your revenue with another company, collaborating, co-owning IPs, doing a lot of heavy lifting on the consultancies.
So now we're getting into what that cleaning, what I mentioned, actually means.
Yeah, because I feel that's, that it's very administrative stuff and it's very legal related stuff that usually is not like, oh, well, I didn't sell this or no, it's usually legal and administrative structures that are complex. And I suppose that's the same for you. You don't need to get into it if you don't want to talk about it.
I can give a few examples, like what I mean by cleaning. Like I mentioned, all these shared IP, for example, it just makes it more complicated. Or if you don't have proper contracts with some customers, so what are you really selling then? Or if, let's say, a big chunk of your team are part-time and they have another job on the side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So again, then if whoever acquires you actually wants the team, that's problematic, So
Yeah.
all these kinds of things, or maybe investments that you did on the company, like, I don't know, some real estate investment on whatever. So how do you get that out before getting acquired?
And then it also, it's kind of like, well, you're doing cleanup before getting acquired. And in many cases that might be super okay, but it might also be some not so straightforward, dodgy looking moves that might make an acquirer say, but and this is like, I thought that our company was the most straightforward, minimalist business ever. We still spend plenty of time in due diligence, and there were things that hit me that you only bump into when when you get into acquisition and you've never heard of things like that before and stuff.
Yeah.
And when you do clean up, you also, it depends if you have a proper lawyer and accountant that helps you with the business and building the business, maybe you're more okay. But we're a small startup. We never actually had to sit down with had the budgets to sit down with a lawyer. Even the accounting, I was doing the accounting, and we had a tax submission service and so on. So, you find out that I should have kept this record or that, or I should have done this and so on. So you have to clean up. But look, I think your approach is actually a very sane one. And from the sound of it, that's the way you should go. It will be less hassle, less headaches and so on. Keeping the consultancy business as a lifestyle stuff, and in parallel, start building a product.
Learn from my previous mistakes. Now, if I start another company with a potential exit in mind, I know how to do it from the beginning. It's very different. And what else is probably next for Life in Codes? What I'm trying to do by scaling up is to reduce my personal implication there. I would like
it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. I wanted to become an independent entity, so then I can actually focus on new challenges in my life, like maybe building product. Yeah.
So as in, and what would be the setup there? As in, you'd have a different CEO, and you'd have someone someone else run it, and so on.
Yes. We are present in multiple countries, so I think I would go more for a setup where there are responsible people for each location.
But you're the main CEO still, I suppose. But you have like
for the time
co-CEOs in other locations and so on. Okay.
That's the idea at the moment.
I think the one thing that it gets challenging is if you're a stakeholder that relies on dividends from a business like this, and you don't have executive control, it becomes very uncomfortable very quickly, right? Because you see decision being taken and this and that, and it's very uncomfortable and to not have to not be there to take the harness. And
this is exactly why I believe it would be very difficult to give full control to someone else in this business. It's a bit too late for that.
Yeah. So that's not what you're talking full control. No. You're talking about...
No, I think I'm going to have to maintain control somehow. And I am actually in the situation that you mentioned, that my personal income depends a lot on this business.
Oh, yeah. But I think it's hard to kind of let go and delegate and things like that to other CEOs and so on. But if you find people that are trustworthy, and not just trustworthy, but also really good at their job and passionate and love it, and you see in them the same hunger that you seen in you 10 years ago, right, or 5 years ago, I think that's a recipe. Like and I advise this to absolutely everyone. If you want to find a co-founder, whether for your product business or for your consultancy and so on, think of all of the people that you worked with before at different companies or in different situations, even customers and so on, that you might have spent a bit more time, and either find a clone of theirs or try to nudge them and say, hey, we've been working really great in the past years, or, do you want to come over and help me with this? I think that's the best approach. Like we were able at Jigsaw to build a company and have amazing engineers and so on, because we knew a couple of guys, and those guys worked with other people, and then they brought people in and so on. So it was kind of like a network relationship kind of thing. Yeah, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, I wanted to ask you, because you talk about people now, and actually have a question for you on that. I know we share this idea of remote working, cross-border build business, and so on, find the best talent, and so on. I want your advice on that. How did you manage to choose the right people in order to still build company culture remote? And even more, you have a culture that promotes bringing new ideas on board and not just executing.
Well, there's a couple of things, and this might sound for many boring, right? But this is the most tested, battered way to have a culture that you as a founder can still recognize and enjoy 5-10 years later, which is really understand what your personal values and desires and do's and don'ts are from experience from working in other companies and exploring various cultures and so on, and write your values, your own values, right? As a person, I value this, and then translate that into professional values. So figure out, okay, so if I like this thing in a person, in a work environment, in the way I operate with technology and this and that, how can I apply that to the work environment? And then write them up. And it can also just be purely, I didn't like that thing in the other company, so I'm gonna think of a way for me not to do that, right? Once you create your values, right, your company values, which is your CEO values in a sense, then when you start hiring, your questions, especially on the culture fit segment of your interviews, all revolve around figuring out if they're a fit and they would get along with everyone else that's kind of like lives by those values, and that's what their beliefs and diversity of the group and so on revolves around those values and so on. Now, a hack to get people that can pull together and so on is, like I mentioned earlier, get the people that are already working for you and you really enjoy how they work, and you find them really high-end professional A+ players, get them to bring other people on. Because if they have this specific style and this vibe around them, and their skill set are in this range of quality, then they will recognize talent more often.
I like that a lot.
More often than not. So I rarely had a person where they would be really good and they would bring me someone that was sub-mediocre. Yeah, that did happen once or twice. But then I realized, hold on, this person cannot judge. Like they don't have that ability to judge people, to classify, to characterize people in a sense. So the very good, talented team members that brought one or two people that weren't a fit usually were a bit agnostic. They didn't have that sense of what is quality that I relate to in a person and what not. They were very inclusive. Let's put it like that. Very, very, very inclusive people that don't have that nuance of thinking of, I really like this person, right? No, they like everyone. So usually those were the ones that brought the quality wasn't there. But usually a lot of people that are very hardworking, determined, and passionate about stuff, they also have this, great recognizes great, right? So they would have people that they really like at work and they would recommend them to you. So I think that's the best way to quickly get people. But we didn't have a very thorough hiring process. We brought a lot of people from our existing people. We test them a bit. We gave them a bit of a trial period. Realized this is an identical person to this other person, right? With their own traits and their own character and so on. But when it comes to the output of work, man, I'm getting the same output from this person that's been here for 2 years. That's amazing, right? So that feeling is so great when you get people on and they just immediately. And I think that's I think there's a lot of, you can heavy load hiring process in such a way that you hire the amazing people. But that requires a lot of energy from you, from HR, from the hiring department, and so on. If you're at the start, this is the hack. Just think of great people that you worked with, bring them on, and then have them bring other great people.
Yeah, nice idea.
Okay.
What about dealing with the fact that everyone is remote working? Did you organize maybe some recurrent in-person meetings with the team, or how did you actually bring people together to make them collaborate? It's something we struggle with.
Yeah, we didn't. We had our first and only full team get together in September in Brighton, September last year. After working for years with the team.
Okay. Did something change after you met?
I think yes. Like I do believe that in-person interactions are super important on how you digest someone, on how you understand them, on how compassionate you get. It's quite difficult when you're across a Zoom call. So I do think that meeting at least once a year with your full team and not bringing them around yourself, but actually making sure that they naturally they're in each other's presence more than they're in your presence, right?
Exactly.
It's very easy for people to just revolve around the CEO, because he's organizing. Especially if you're a small team and you don't have like organizers for the offsite, and you're organizing and you're guiding people and so on. Plus, you're the boss, right? So it's a lot easier for people to just revolve around you. So you have to craft that offsite in a way that people spend time with people, not people spend time with the founder, with the CEO. That's important as well, right? The one-to-ones and so on. But people should mix and spend time together. Oh, they go for a hike, they do this, they go on a workshop, 2-3 people from the team and so on. You're not included. You're over here doing a one-to-one with a different person and so on. And that helps them bond rather than just focusing on you. And because this is one of the things that I see quite often. You go to offsites and the founder is the star, right? They're the celebrity in the group, and those offsites become the founder sharing the vision of what needs to be and so on. The Steve Jobs type of,
Yeah.
offsites and so on. And what you see, at least in public, because I've never been to one, right? But what you see documented and so on, it seems like everyone was revolving around him. That's not very healthy, and you're literally transforming an event where people should connect with each other. At the end of the day, people will work more with each other than directly with you as the CEO or the founder, right? So those relationships need to grow, not the relationship with you.
Exactly.
Although that's important as well for the vision,
That's the
mission
part
setting
we
and so
struggle
on.
with. Yeah.
So those are important, but ultimately, I think you also should work with people that have experience of working remote. It's just plain and simple. Someone that
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't have the experience, they will need a lot more of a in-person touch, right? They will struggle quite a bit to humanize people across the Zoom calls. If you worked remote for several years with a variety of people, you've been on offsites, you're used to this lifestyle, you know how to handle situations and conversations and everything remote, and you're also more compassionate because you got to that point where when you're talking to a person on Zoom, you kind of your compassion by experience, in a sense, because you met another 2-3 people that were very alike like this person, and you actually met those people in person at offsites at previous companies and so on. So again, because of experience and time spent in this kind of setup, you're a bit better placed, in a sense, better equipped, let's put it like that. So I think that's, I'm not saying don't hire people that never worked remote, because then we're not inclusive. But with those people, you need to realize that, and the entire team needs to realize that, and that they don't have the experience. They'll find it a lot more struggling, and they need to be accommodating. So if you've worked remote for a long time, you need to be the one that's accommodating towards those that are struggling a bit. And then again, offsites, maybe you as a founder can also do visits and so on. Oh, because you're also traveling quite a lot. When next time you're in Costa Rica and so on,
Yeah.
oh, well, I have someone there, let me visit. Or even, let's say next year, you have 5-10 countries where you have employees. Go on holidays in those countries and visit the cities, the towns where your employees are, and just spend some one-to-one time with them. So at least they get that connection with the founder. And then once a year you have your offsites and so on. To be honest, there's no silver bullet with any of this. Like there are people that are trying. There's so many blueprints and teachings out there on how to work best with remote teams. One thing that I would say is it's very hard for me to not see a person eye to eye in person, right? At all. I got used to it over the years because we've done that quite a lot. Emotional intelligence is an important factor to building a successful business and so on. And seeing a fraction of your team through remote, it sometimes can be hard. So, consolidating it with in-person stuff is very important. I never minded the office hours, right? When the world was, office,
Yeah.
office. I never minded.
I miss particularly the coffee breaks.
The water cooler discussion, the coffee breaks and so on.
Yeah.
It is a bit of a mix of emotions there, because whoever you talk to, people are like, no, that was a waste of my time. Just need to put my head down and work and be efficient. Some of us really like that. I used to love those as well.
I wanted to ask you about your exit. if it's not too personal.
No, go ahead.
So how do you decide when to exit? What were the options? What were the difficulties? Do you regret it most of all?
I regret everything I do every single day of my goddamn life. No, I'm joking. Now there's okay. So let's untangle that a bit. So the first question was, how did we decide?
Yeah, when to do it? Yeah,
How did we decide when to do it?
yeah.
Did I mention why we decide to sell?
No,
Are you interested in that?
let's start with that.
Because I think that might be kind of scene mood setting for a lot of
Okay.
these things. We decided to sell quite fast after we actually started building a lucrative business. As in, we not decided to sell as in, okay, we're not in it anymore, we're going to sell. But we decided that our fate as a team is to be part of a bigger team, work with more people like us, and have less stress. And that less stress part is a double fold. One, it's stressful. It's stressful to be a founder, an entrepreneur. You have to deal with so many things. Your time off is not time off, right? You constantly think about your business. You're obsessed about it. You get emotional constantly about it. And, and we love that as founders and entrepreneurs. Though it's stressful, when you don't have it for a while, you get to miss it. It's how we're wired. It's like,
Yeah,
I want to, I want that fiery love, right? Where like I want to be able to go through ups and downs and so on. That's how I feel like I'm progressing. If it's happiness, constant happiness, then are you progressing? If it's constant, monotony and meh, right? Are you progressing? So we itch for that tumultuous ride in a sense, right? So, but I think both Nikki and I, and especially me, I have this ups and downs. Like I have periods of my life where I operate at high frequency, and then I have periods where like I need, because I burned out
yeah.
my entire energy in this high frequency.
I can
need
relate to that.
You need to a period where it's like I want silence in my head, right? I want to break away from my head and my emotions. We wanted to have a period where we just focus on our skills and our professional growth without the stress of a business and all of the ups and downs and so on. And the other bit was we wanted to finally kind of settle down. Like for us, another component, stress component, was we're over 30, we don't have our house, our home, we're living rent, we don't have the certain means, right? So we're still the early 20s hackers and entrepreneurs that are living from door to door in a sense, backpacking and, not at that level, right? In a sense, like you just have rent and so on, but it doesn't feel like you're settling down. It doesn't feel like you're, I'm now in my house. I have my dogs around. I can walk in my garden. It's
You
like
can finally take a proper vacation.
yeah, it's the vacation, and you feel like you're settled in a way, right? I feel that your identity is really quite, tumultuous. Yeah, you do have a constant in your early 20s when, and I'm talking about entrepreneurs, not everyone's the same. Not everyone thinks and wants the same things. But as an entrepreneur and someone that wants and, chases success and chases professional growth and so on, there's one constant, is your itch, your need for this growth in entrepreneurship. The rest is chaos. And that's kind of like your identity is in crisis often. You change hats and you change identities quite a lot because you move there because everything is so, there's no constant, right? The only constant is this. I know that I'm very passionate about business, but everything else is up in the air, right? But as we were discussing earlier, after a while, you just want that constant to not be just one constant. You want multiple constants. You want to be just in one place and just settle down. Let's just call it like that. So these are the two stress factors that we wanted to remove, at least temporarily, right? And that was our decision because again, we worked really hard, and that's the thing. We started Jexo in 2018, and for 2 years we were working full-time jobs and running Jexo. And then 2020 came, pandemic, all of the craziness. All of us suffered quite a lot over that period. It was a very intense period. 2021 is quite a lot. But at the beginning of 2021, as we were growing and starting to generate significant revenue, we're like, why? Like we were not very attached to the Jigsaw brand per se. Why? Like we could be the same individuals having the same contributions to Atlassian ecosystem as we were at that point and do amazing things, maybe even more amazing because we have more people to do it. Why are we torturing ourselves just so that we say one day, oh, we sold a business for 50 million or 100 million and so on? Is that why? We don't care about numbers, right? In that sense, I don't care. I don't, and this is one of the other things that I've learned was I had a very fixed number in my head for an exit, even once we took the decision, right? Mm-hmm. Because, before taking the decision to sell, we were like, yeah, we're going to build a SaaS business. Oh, it's ramping up. And you have these examples, this kind of like cookie cutter examples of a company getting seed investment, then going for series A, B, C, getting hundreds of millions of investment, and then exiting, hopefully successfully, and for hundreds of millions or something like that. And I think that's the wrong, I can say that's the wrong approach of thinking because those companies are one in a dozen, right? So not all of us average Joes will get to experience that ever. And I'm okay with that, right? I've never had this. So that's when we sat in 2021 and we were like, why? Let's just be part of a team. We don't want to build a $1 billion company. We just want to do cool stuff. And then, but I still had a price in my mind. I was like, yeah, I'm only going to sell for 20 million. Because if I get 20 million for Jexo, I'm going to be able to do X, Y, Z, right? I'm going to be able to buy a house, maybe 2 houses, one for my mama, one for me. And I'm still pretty much paying my mom's mortgage now, which I'm super proud of. But in my mind back then, I was like, I'll just buy her the house. I'll write her off the house. But then having conversations with people that exited and sold companies and so on, I realized that I was quite narrow-minded to think that 20 million is the amount that will make me happy. Because at the end of the day, we wanted less stress. We wanted to settle down and have less stress for this period of time. It's not 20 million that gives you that. It was just my thinking, oh, I can do this. I can start a VC and do that. Well, safe to say we sold for way less than that, right? But again, after realizing that this artificial storyline that social media and regular media in general kind of implants in your head around you have to have these many millions in order to be successful and be happy is very damaging, because we had to take a step back and look at, well, what do we want to achieve? What are our goals? Well, we want to get a house and we want to settle down. We want to work with cool people. We want to have holidays. Does that require us to sell for 20 million? No, not really. But it took conversations with people that actually went through, friends of ours that got acquired and exited and so on. I said, bullshit. You'll be happy with that way less. You know, once you're above 2 million or something like that, doesn't make a big difference for you, financially.
Doesn't change your lifestyle
Doesn't change
on a daily basis.
Yeah. If you have 2 million upwards of an exit, and that's your money, right? That's your revenue and so on. And you're not have to invest it in something else and so on. It's like, you're good. You're good. Because, unless your goals are boats and fancy cars and things like that and flashy
then
lifestyle.
Of course it's very easy to spend it.
But no, we're creatives, we're nerds, we want to do cool projects and so on, and that's that. And honestly, the reason why I'm saying it's damaging is because you could have a lucrative exit, right? Get a decent payout, work with amazing people. But if your vision of success is basically directed by social media and news and all of these examples, then one, you'll be miserable if you take an offer that's less than what you think you're worth and so on, hundreds of millions and so on. Or two, you take the wrong decisions and reject some opportunities that could be life-changing. So yeah, that was the story of how we decided, and then eventually we were like, well, why are we trying to get to 20 million? It makes no sense. Let's just do it now. And our acquisition did happen 1 year earlier than where we were projecting. It's like this 20 million exit and so on. But fundamentally, there's absolutely no difference. It would have made no difference financially, I would say. And actually, we got to win some really great opportunities and partner up with a really great company early on, where it might have not been the same opportunity a year later. So that's the history of it. What was the second question?
Among the options, and so let's say I have a startup, I want to exit, and for people that don't really understand how that works, from an administrative or legal point of view, and so what is the relation afterwards, and options and difficulties basically. But I wanted to say about your answer that it's so inspiring. I'm considering more to sell my business now.
It's like, I'm gonna sell my business for $5,000. I don't need money. I'm gonna live in a tent. I'm joking, but
especially
that's true,
two
right?
parts: being a part of a bigger team and doing even better things for the customers. Being able to do that, I think that's very inspiring. And much less stress. I mean, I did not have a vacation in 6 years, a proper vacation. I mean,
and then that's what you say. We say, oh well, I went to to Monaco last year for Formula One. It was amazing, but I feel like 50%. What am I talking 50? Probably 70-80% of the time, Nikki and I were talking about Jigsaw.
Of course.
And
wherever I go, I still carry 2 laptops.
We had PM72 just around the corner. It was it's never a proper holiday that you don't think of things. That's that. I don't think figures are that important as well. And yes, you're right. And Randall, our CEO at Afire, said, in the announcement that they're giving us a megaphone to amplify our voices. And that's 100% true. Because in the last 2 years, I've been growing in building, creating content, helping others in the communities and the ecosystem and so on. And I love that. It's so fulfilling to me to just do stuff and hear people's stories that, you know, the type of content that we create and so on help inspire this or that, or help them keep up with stuff. It's very inspiring to me. So I always wanted to kind of double down on that. But when you're a CEO and you have a business, it's really hard to double down and just focus on this, because you, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's it. Like we're getting a megaphone to be able to double down on the stuff that we want. Like that is a dream, and that's, I think that's what people need to get for themselves. Don't sell because that's trendy and everyone's selling nowadays. Sell, get acquired, be part of a team, be financially stable, and so on. Those are, you know, when you sell, that's what you have to think about. Why am I doing this, right? Oh, well, I have these two opportunities. In these companies, I could actually be a really successful professional, right? Exited founder, I have that badge, that's great. And everyone in this company and this company that are my options would really appreciate the expertise that I'm bringing on. I'll get to work with more customers, bigger customers. Oh, and I'm getting an exit. Now I'm getting an exit amount that can help me settle this. Oh, and I have weekends now. I don't need to think about work. Oh, I'm finishing at 8. I don't need to think about work. And that kind of trumps everything in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Because you kind of want that. And I don't know if you're the same, but I'm sure that eventually I'll have an itch to start something, right? But for now, I'm good to finish at 8, at 6, 8, whenever I finish, and just relax and be with my family, or go on weekends, mini trips, go on proper holidays and so on. So those are quite important. Yeah, sorry. I went back to the same topic.
Yeah, let's discuss the options and what is the process of
So with
getting
options,
acquired.
I think that traditionally you can sell a business, or you can get acquired, right? Or you can enter a partnership, which a strategic partnership where you get a large portion of your company acquired, right? But you still own some portion of it, some part of it, some options, some shares in the company. So those are 3 options. Now it really depends on the type of business that we're talking about, because if we're talking about product, all 3 are on the table, right? More or less. It really depends. Fundamentally, what buyer will look at is, and this is, you know, it's a very basic thing, but they will look at how healthy your business is today, one, and what are the opportunities, right? What's the, where you can get with this business. And anything that could be a red flag as not a healthy business needs to be surfaced even before you sign a letter of intent and you get into an exclusivity deal and you go through due diligence. So this would be one of the advice that I give anyone. Don't leave skeletons in your closet to be, because you're like, well, we'll discuss those in due diligence. I would say, if you have something in the back of your mind about, oh, well, I'm not sure about this, pull it out and discuss it, mention it upfront. A lot of times it might be okay, but you know, the M&A team that you're talking about, yeah, it's fine. Let's figure out during the due diligence and so on. But just make sure that you know those. Let me ask this, just to make sure that I feel I'm talking here, but I might not giving you what you want. So in terms of options, are you referring to what, to the types of acquisition or what?
Yeah, what you said is already answered my question. So
Okay.
the strategic partnership is, for example, what is getting more and more proposed to me in the services business.
With the strategic partner, your agreement needs to be super bulletproof,
Yeah.
right? Because the last thing you want is to get a specific deal, get very limited or no resources to help you out, and you're working and stressing the same or even more than when it was your own business and so on. So like that needs to be really well crafted and drafted so that you feel like it's a fair deal to you, right? Like, oh, I'm getting this much amount of money for this much amount of shares in the company.
Yeah. And maybe here we can touch a little on best practices, like how much shares, how much equity should you give out from your company?
Well, it really depends whether you want to remain in control or not. Because if let's start there, because that's the
I would
simplest.
assume most people want to
bit.
keep control.
You'd assume, but it really depends. Why would you want to keep control, for example?
Well, you're right. I mean, in my case, in my personal case, is because my income depends a lot on my company. That's basically what I've built my whole life.
Okay.
So it's hard to give that away to someone else.
Yes, very true.
And to trust them that they're gonna do well with it.
Right. So let me ask this following question. If you'd get an offer where, let's say, someone wants to buy 60% of your company and give you a recurring salary, plus you get the rest dividends from 40% remaining, would you take that deal?
Probably not.
What would
Today not.
right?
But I would have to understand more about what happens when I give away 60% of my company.
Right.
Like what do they have power to do next?
It really depends, because in a lot of these share distribution and shareholder agreements, it really depends. Sometimes they would be drafted to say you're not allowed to sell the company or get new investment without the signing of the rest of the shareholders.
Yeah.
Right.
No matter how little they own. Okay.
Yeah, that can be one, or it can be you have to have the majority control to do so. It can be as little as that to as high as, well, we have the ultimate power to sack you as a CEO and put a new CEO in and do this and do that and do that, right? So it really depends on what the clauses of that is, because
This is what I would look at. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it makes sense you wouldn't give more than 40-45% if you want to keep control, given that you want to ensure that this still stays your revenue for a very long time. It really depends. I think the one important aspect is to get to know the buyer's business and really understand whether there are hardcore opportunities for you to continue to skyrocket, because then you're like, I can make double, triple the revenue that I'm making now by owning 40 or 50 or 60% versus 100%. And that's in perpetuity, because this company is so big and has so many projects that's never going to run out. So that's definitely something. I think the other thing is M&A team and so on, and how you get along with them and how well you understand each other and so on. So you have to kind of surface all of these details before you get into a LOI, because once you got into LOI, you can't talk to anyone else. A lot of these letter of intent agreements means you're exclusive to me as the buyer for the next 3 months, 4 months, 6 months while we do due diligence and we come to an agreement of what the final deal is. Those letter of intents usually also have the rough agreement of what you're going to get, but that can change along the way depending on the due diligence. But it also means that over that period, you can't really talk to any of their competitors to see. So it might be locked in for 6 months.
Yeah.
And plus, it takes time from you. Due diligence takes time and energy and stress and so on. So I do really advise for people to really think it through, look at the team, look at the details, look at everything they can look at and surface before getting into a LOI, because then you're locked in for a while.
Right.
With the other options, selling probably not an option for consultancy, because you're selling the rest of the team. How about you? Like you also mentioned that you're quite critical to the operation, and acquisition. Yeah, acquisition is another option, but again, it means that it really depends, because if you get an amount, I don't know, 2, 3, 4x or something like that of your last year revenue or something like that. I don't know exactly how it works with consultancy. I think it's kind of like that. With product is you have annual recurring revenue, this much, and you get like a 8, 10, 12x of that. It's quite straightforward. It really depends, because if you get an amount that you can live off of for 2-3 years, right? And then you're also currently hired, because you got acquired. You're working for the company. Job. And say you're there at least 2 years, 4, 5, and you don't have any clauses in your agreement that keeps you from building another company. Of course, you're going to have clauses of non-compete and so on. But if you're getting into a product, that I think that's different enough for it not to overlap. It depends on the company. But if you're in that setup, getting a really good salary, you're not planning to leave. But if you decide to leave, if you get pissed off for any reason and decide to leave, you have a 2-3 year salary from the transaction, right? From the acquisition transaction. You might think, well, I'm good. Like, I'll build this product and I'll get it funded and I'll do a great job and so on. The one advice that I would have is, because I see you talking about that, that being your bread and butter and so on, like the business and so on. Take a step back and look at whether you're seeing that business as the perpetuity safe place for yourself, and why you're seeing that like that. Because, and I'm not saying like you can have it as this is my safe space in a sense financially. This is the business that I can get money constantly because I control it and I know what it is. But in the same time, it could keep you from opportunities if you don't step outside to look at what would be some of the other options. Like I mentioned, this option. I'm not saying that this would be the best option for you, but there's a chance that if you step back and you say, but if I put A with B and C, that's actually might be good. So it kind of gives you a wealth of options. And even if you go back to the original, right, and you say, I love my business, I'm going to keep my business, it makes me decent money and so on. At least you took a step back to look at all of the options, and you were a lot more confident with how you perceive it. Like, I can always pivot and do this and this if I'm bored, or or this is not working, or I need something else, or I need to accelerate my product and so on. I can just do this. Even that stepping back and looking at your options, really crafting them and saying, if I would really go down this path, ABC, that's a pretty decent setup.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and I want to answer that. No, I don't see safety as coming from my current company. For me, safety comes from financial freedom. Actually, one of my values is freedom, and here I could talk about freedom to move. I travel whenever I want, work from anywhere, but also to be safe from a financial perspective. And for financial freedom, in order to feel safe, I think you need passive income. And having a services business is not passive income.
It's,
Not at all.
yeah, definitely not.
So what I am doing, I actually invest my income into other depends, real estate, stocks, whatever that would offer me a passive income. And from that, I feel safe. And this allows me to take risks with my company as well. And know that, okay, I can still put something on the table no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think just between you and I think you're doing a great job by thinking about product.
Thank you.
Because that's when you get to a point where you think about scaling and growing rather than sustaining. It's very easy when you're have a consultancy business to look at how do you sustain, because you have to sustain.
Yeah.
You have to sustain a product as well, and your customer is happy and so on. But at the end of the day, your focus is quite a lot on growth and expansion and so on. Okay, well, I don't know if I answered all your questions about
You
it.
did.
We can continue the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.
After the cameras are off as well. Before we wrap it up, and thank you. I think this is a really brilliant conversation, really engaging.
Totally agree. Thanks a lot for the insightful answers.
No worries. I'm just a fool that failed a lot, and this is just a couple of my thoughts. I'm sure that, and I'm hoping that we'll get an input from the rest of the community of Misfit Founders. Right, to close it off, I have 3 questions that I ask every single guest.
Okay.
And you know what those questions are because I send them to you in advance. So number 1 is, what's a quote that you live by?
Yeah. Do what you love what you do. I would say this defines me a lot, since basically my personal life and my work life are mixed together quite a lot. And if you don't like what you do, you go crazy. Yeah, you will never be able to put into your business 12, 16 hours a day, and so on. So yeah,
very good quote, very popular quote, and very good quote. Right. So question number 2: what is a book that you really love?
Well, I don't read a lot of fiction books, so it's more personal growth and so on. Although with some exceptions, of course. I think I would choose Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits.
Yeah, but it's by James Clear, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in a few words. It's about how you can grow by setting small habits that you do constantly, and then you can associate them with something pleasant. But on a personal note, how I would describe it is, since I'm a numbers guy and I like investing and so on, I think compound interest does not only apply to financial stuff; it will also apply to your own growth and to healthy stuff and so on. And okay, if you do a small exercise today and a small exercise tomorrow, and on the long run, this actually adds up a lot.
That is, yeah. I'm trying to figure out if I read it. It's a very famous book. I don't think I read it. I think I need to pick it up and read it. I need to take a note of it. The last one, this is an interesting one. A good habit that you advocate for.
Yeah. I think is building a workflow or a system that you don't leave any important question unanswered. This again is something that I apply a lot and really defines me. I'm one of those people that, for example, my system is. I'm one of those people that opens every single email.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe even if I don't have a solution at the moment, but if just by being responsive and that actually grows my personal brand and the trust people have in me, and I would say is my competitive advantage in the professional sector.
That's a really good one. I've been quite process oriented, and I see patterns everywhere I look, right? So whenever I see a setup or disorder, in a sense, I'm seeing patterns, and I'm seeing. So I think that's one thing for me is, as a good habit. So you read all of your emails?
Yeah.
Open
I
single.
open them, of course. From the first sentence, I know if it's important or not, but I do open all my emails.
Okay, that you must be such a peaceful, peace of mind type of person. Do you want to know how many unread emails I have?
How many?
35,000.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But you know why? Because like you, I scan, right? So I scan stuff, but I don't open. Like I scan. If the title is not there, I don't open it. And sometimes I look at my inbox and I'm like, fuck. Do I have important emails that I'm missing? Did I miss anything? So I definitely praise you for.
And I think that translates to life in code as well. Of course, we answer every single request, whether or not we can do it, and that gains trust.
Of course.
So,
that's really good. Right. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting.
It's a pleasure. It's one of the first episodes, and it's great to have you part of it. And looking forward to continue the conversation offline and in the communities. So
sure.
If you have any questions about our entire discussion today, or if you want to contribute, put in the comment. Also, I didn't mention, we have our own Misfit community. Find the link in the description, join our conversation, and we'll see you in the next video. If you like this video, thumbs up and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye.